Yeah, but today I wanted to talk about, and this is something that I think, everyone could, when we post it on YouTube and share it with everyone, not to say you have to save it, but it's something to save. I'm not big on motivational stuff and the foo-foo, hoo-hoo, rah-rah. Like I was in the army and I hated when they wanted us to yell and go, ah. I was the silent sufferer that I could throw two guys on my back and carry up the mountain and just suffer in silence. And I didn't need someone to encourage me and say, you know, hoorah or hooah. I think ours was hooah. I hated it. But, and then of course I got out and I joined Amway, which is big time foo-foo, hoorah, or whatever, that kind of motivational stuff. The thing that I never liked it there. Real estate offices do that a lot too. So I never really liked it. So that's always people when they hear me talk about like, why don't you, like Mary last week said, so why don't you like the motivational stuff? And I just said, at the end of the day, you don't always want to feel like you have to be motivated on everything. Your goal should motivate you enough. The work sometimes is just not going to be motivating, but you just do it anyway. You two, the only two that are on the call today, other than a couple other people, are like the busiest with your other businesses and making real estate work. And it's like, you two have learned, you just do it. You just got to go do it. It's not always about feeling motivated. At the same time, there are things that I think people have to watch out for in their mindset. And I see people all the time, including people from other brokerages, when they're talking to us on the mortgage side, or now that we're hiring a lot of mortgage lenders, I'm hearing different perspectives from people. And it really comes down to, relighting the dream, right? You've got to remember what your goal is and your ambition, because it's going to help you always figure out, and catch yourself when you start to get in that slump. It probably is the same thing like with the 49ers, Rebecca,
Yep.
they're losing out on their dream and their goal. And honestly, they're probably in their head because not like I really follow it a lot, so I could be totally off. But I think McCaffrey's out, right? He's injured.
Yep.
I guarantee you that is in a lot of their heads that,
Yeah.
man, how are we going to win without McCaffrey? Like our team is just not a team. He would just dominate and help us. And every time that they mess up and they don't get the touchdown or they go to lose, they immediately say in their head, it's because McCaffrey's not here.
Right.
And here's the thing is there are sports psychologists who get paid. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to even try to guess, but I'm going to say like upward, in the millions probably, for going and helping teams like this and working with their people. Right before, when I was in the Army, I went to, I was brand new. I went to this mountaineering warfare school. It's a very tech. So basically, we learned how to operate and fight in mountains. We would do rope bridges across canyons. We'd climb up mountains, shoot from elevation, shoot from upside down, all the weird, crazy stuff. I'm super terrified of heights. I just sweated the whole time. And it was my first real exposure, other than basic training, to just how everything worked. And for me, I just didn't want to mess up and disgrace my unit. So I really pushed me to be successful and complete that course. Well, then afterward, everyone thought it was so cool. I'm in college and in the reserves, and I get a call and someone says, hey, do you want to go to airborne school and jump out of planes? I said, yeah, I want to do that. And then someone calls me and they say, hey, we also have an opportunity for you to go to Thailand and train with the Thai forces and kind of learn from them. And you also train them a little bit. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And then I get a call and say, okay, do you know how to swim? And they said, and this is supposed to be in the whole summer, after, between semesters of school. And they said, do you know how to swim? I said, yeah, of course I know how to swim. And they said, no, seriously, like, how well can you swim? I'm like, I mean, I have my scuba diving license. I mean, I swam competitively as a little kid, kind of, but yeah, I mean, I know how to swim. I've got 50 scuba, dives under my belt. And they said, okay, well, we just got a message that we have an opportunity. You'd have to not go to airborne school, not go to Thailand. you'd go to something called the Special Forces Underwater Scuba Diving School. This is a hard school. Would you be interested in applying and going? I said, yeah, of course. That Special Forces, that's cool. And they said, okay, but no, seriously, are you sure you want to go? This is like the hardest school in the military. And I'm like, okay, but I already said yes. I can't just say no because you said that. I said, yes, I want to go. And they said, okay, I'm going to ask you one more time. Like, people have died. People have not really died in the school. Well, technically they did, but it was for other reasons. But they said, people have died in this school. I'm like, okay, I can't back down, but you were freaking me out. And so I said yes, and I applied. I got accepted to go. And I was just dying inside. I was so nervous. I didn't know anyone who had ever been. And so I basically just trained myself. I went, but I did not want to mess up. I did not want to disgrace my unit again. And every day was tough. Every day was, I don't think I can make it through this. Like every minute was, I think, because they basically just like torture you because they want you to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations underwater. And in order to do that, they pretty much have to just beat the hell out of you, torture you. I mean, you're going to feel like you're always choking on water, drowning, can't see, always kind of blacking out, but you eventually get comfortable with it. And every minute we would stop a drill and I'd be just like dying. And I'm like, I can't do it. I don't think I can do this. And then I'd hear this bell ring because we had to bring this bell out, this giant bell. We had to clean it every night and every morning. And someone would get out of the pool and they'd ring the bell that they quit and they'd leave and they get kicked out of the course. And every time I heard that bell, I was like, I'm still here. I'm still doing it. I'm still making it. And I remember I had a roommate that was with me and we'd finish the day and we're just like, dude, we're still here. And just be like, high five. We're like 20 people just quit today. We're still here. Boom, high five. And it was in the moving forward in the future, it definitely looking back, eventually we passed the course, we moved on, we went, I did all kinds of other training. When I was getting ready to go to Ranger School, it was a bunch of officers and they brought in a sports psychologist who worked with some big football teams in Alabama and different universities. And he was coming in to talk with us about getting mentally prepared for Ranger School. And one of the things someone asked is, when they ask you to do a lot of workouts and stuff, shouldn't I just like take it easy if they're not looking at me while I'm doing push-ups? And he said, if you're not giving your all every minute, you're more likely to get injured. You're more likely to get in your own head. And we have found that the people who give it their all at every minute of the time end up doing the best, even though you would think, okay, now's a good time where I can kick back. And I learned when I went there, I was kind of over it at the time. I had gone to so many different schools. Every school said they're the hardest school. I felt like Ranger School was the stupidest thing I had ever done because it was just like I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. But at the same time, I ended up getting injured. My knee had some crazy issues and I wasn't into it. Now, could I have pushed through? Maybe, if my mindset would have been different, but it became not the goal. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people as they're pursuing businesses. Whenever they have a goal and something gets them excited, right? They're excited to get their real estate license. They're excited to get their mortgage license. They see the income. They see how it can help people, and they figure out every way to justify why they're excited and want to join the industry and be successful. And they've got their dream and they got their goal. No matter what your dream and your goal is, there will always, especially in business, even if it's like the best thing you ever want to do, like music is your thing and you become a musician and you get signed to some record label company, at some point there's going to be work involved that you hate and that is draining. And the bigger the goal is, the more that's going to play a factor. The bigger your goal to success, the more that it's going to feel draining and you're going to feel times of despair. My biggest goal when I got my real estate license was I had just back-to-back employers that were driving me insane, and I just wanted to work for myself. And so that, to me, that's a small goal, but and that's easy to make happen. And so after some work and really pushing through, I finally made real estate the full-time self-employed thing. And then my goal was, okay, I need to hit this new income level. Okay, I want passive income. And the goal got bigger and bigger, but so did the work and the thought process, the constant mental drain, because you're always thinking, okay, I haven't hit my goal. Why am I not hitting my goal? Maybe because I need to be doing this or I need to be doing that. And so as you go through the real estate process or whatever business you might be in, the bigger goal you set for yourself, the more you're going to feel the push and the drive, but at the same time, you're going to feel the mental drain, the physical drain. You're going to feel so many things that you feel like, and I hear this all the time, unfortunately, from a lot of Christians or people of faith, that they hit a wall they should be pushing past because they've set this huge goal. And they say, I think it's God telling me that I'm not supposed to do this. And it's like, I don't think I've ever heard a story in the Bible that when someone achieves something great, that it was super easy. Like, I'm pretty sure there's people getting like, they had plagues and stuff hit them. They had like sores all over their bodies. Like, name one example of some figure in the Bible who wasn't tortured by nature or by people. And it's like, are you telling me that your little bit of suffering and frustration is God telling you not to pursue something great? And I call bullshit. It is what it is. It sucks. I think that if you paid more attention to your regular job, you would even find things that you feel like, hey, this sucks, and you have to find things that pull yourself out of that mental state. The one thing I can attribute to the Amway business thing is that they focused a lot on the dream. They focused on negative motivation and positive motivation. What is the life I want to live? And, what is also driving me to pursue that? We posted a job post for people to get their mortgage license with, our mortgage side. And I'm interviewing people all over the country because we're getting licensed in, I think, like 8 different states right now, and then trying to maybe add on some more. And people see the income potential when they do the math on how many loans you can close and all that stuff. But they also see the flexibility. And I hear a lot of people say, it's the income that's motivating. It's the fact that I get to help people in an industry that people need a lot of help. It's also the flexibility to be able to do what I want when I want. Like, I get that, I may have to take a client call while I'm on vacation, but shoot, how awesome is that I get to continue to work while I'm on vacation? Whereas my regular job, the more effort I put into the company, the more I'm just helping my boss achieve their goals and their success. I think that people hear that, and as great as that is, it does mean it's going to come at a sacrifice. Like, I have people every once in a while that say, I'm not going to say her name, but I interviewed a girl, had her mortgage license since January. She just left her 3rd company. Her last company made her work from Monday through Saturday. Monday through Friday was 8 a.m. till, like, I think she said 6 p.m. And then Saturdays were half days. They gave her just tons of leads. And she has yet to close a deal after being at 3 different companies and having her mortgage license since January. And to me, and she's sitting here saying, well, I want coaching, but I have to have either an office in the town I live in, or I get leads. And to me, it's like, how are you going to tell me what you need when you don't have the success? And I think what I'm hearing is, hey, I want to achieve this success. I want that money. I want to be able to help people. And I want to have the time and flexibility that I think this industry can provide. But I also want something handed to me. I want something that's easy to transact right now. And unfortunately, if you want the top 2, right, the time flexibility, and you want the income that's above the area median income, you're going to have to do something a little different. It's going to have to be a sacrifice. It cannot be something handed to you. Case in point, I had a reminder, you just worked at a company where you worked tons of overtime, getting leads, and you still didn't close anything. You have to realize at some point that when you want something higher, it comes at more work. It doesn't come at, oh, someone else needs to give me something. And so when we look at any business, we have to have these checks and balances with our own mental state, because our own mental state is the biggest wall that we face, right? Mary Gebhardt, which I forgot what she was doing, but she's pretty busy today. She had told me she's reading a book called You Are Your Own Mountain, I think is what it's called. She said, I didn't want to read the book because the title is clearly the title, but the more I read it, I'm realizing, holy crap, like you are your own mountain. You are your own, like your mind is your own enemy, but it can also be the thing that helps you the most. And so as you're going through life and then going through your business, you have to keep in mind, like, okay, what is the thought I'm having? Is it positive or negative? Is it building me up or is it bringing me down? It's bringing me down. Okay, boom, I need to fix it. Is that a correct thought? I had an agent in our brokerage call me yesterday, not going to name names, but they said, hey, I don't know if I feel like I'm negotiating enough for my client. I'm like, you're telling me you got a $10,000 credit on the house. The seller said they weren't going to fix anything if they were going to give you the credit up front. Now that you've done inspections, they said that they are willing to fix a bunch of stuff. And your thought is, I don't think I'm doing enough for my client. That is so debilitating and such a negative thought pattern. You have to start setting those checks and balances on everything you think. So first you got to realize, okay, I'm having these thoughts, right? I'm in the scuba diving school and I'm like, I can't do it. I am dying. You need to think, okay, but am I really? Like, am I okay or am I not? When we were there, because I was not special forces, I was just allowed to go in and see if I could pass it. You had these special forces guys, you had these big monster guys and these people that, they're, just to put it bluntly, like, man, they deploy constantly, they kill people, they do some tough stuff. And I knew it. And they'd get in the water and they're like, come on, men, we can do it. And then we'd have to swim out with an 18-pound weight belt and a 20-pound brick. And they would just sink to the bottom. And I'm like, oh, what? I thought you were so motivated. And here, the tough guy, and they're over here passing out underwater. And I'm watching these like super tough guys not do well. And they drag them out. And then later we'd be eating dinner and they're like, hey, did you see when I passed out underwater? I just went, ugh, and they were laughing about it. And I'm like, whoa, your thought process on what just happened is very different than my thought process. A lot of them would tell me about, there's a school that we all went to called SEER School. It's Survive, Evade, SEER, Resist, Escape. So basically they put you out in the wilderness to just survive, and then they capture you like it was like you're an enemy of war. And they put you in, I mean, it was awful. I mean, you get to a point where you just go through it, right? And you push through and you find the times to be happy and focus on that. I mean, that place was awful. But that's what a lot of them would tell me is they're like, because I hadn't gone to that school yet. And they said, I get in this SEER School mindset. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, well, I mean, I'm going to get through it. Like, it sucks. I can't breathe. I'm choking on water. Our mask is cloudy, so I can't see anything. People are passing this 20-pound brick around and I'm getting hit in the face with it. I'm watching my buddy pass out underwater and they're dragging him out of the pool. But I just go through it. Once it's done, I'll breathe again and I'll be fine and we'll move on to the next drill. And I'm like, that's very interesting thought pattern. And that's kind of what we have to go through, right? You're going to have the transactions that suck. You're going to have the deals that you're just like, whoa, this agent is so unethical and so rude, but I'm going to smile and nod because that's part of the business. Everyone says they go through it, so I'm going to go through it too, and I'm just going to move on to the next one. The second you have that thought where you say, I don't know if this industry is worth it, that's what everyone is going to say. So either you're going to get out and you're going to ring the bell and you're going to quit, or you're going to watch other people ring the bell and quit, and you're going to say, well, I'm still here and I'm pursuing something more, right? I'm putting up with this because once this deal's done, I don't have to deal with this anymore. When I have that client who made me show them houses, and then I get a call from the listing agent after, and they say, hey, I think that client just put in an offer with a different agent. I think to myself, I know this is going to happen. It happens. It sucks. That person's so rude, but I need to move on and find the next deal because it already happened. The next minute, an hour, it's irrelevant. It's gone. It's past. I need to move on, right? It's just something that's going to happen. There's going to be times when people want you to take the phone call and you're like, well, I'm with my family. And they said, well, I want to buy a house, or I want you to do the loan. What do you mean you can't take my phone call right at this very minute? And that's just something you have to smile and nod and either say, okay, either I'll just lose this client and get someone new tomorrow, or I'll take the call and I'll suffer through it, but we'll get through it. And so the biggest thing I see in our industry is the checks and balances. It's the realizing that your thought pattern, if it's negative or if it's positive, and then trying to correct it. Too many people get on this dive of self-despair and defeat, and they say, man, I've had my license for 3 years and I've never closed it. I've only closed one deal, or 2 years and I haven't closed a deal. Is this really something for me? And you have to think, no, I'm working 2 jobs. I've got a ton of kids. I've got all this other stuff that's delaying me, and it's going to make it a lot harder. And so even though so-and-so doesn't have kids and they're able to be full-time in the industry, it's going to be a little easier for them, but we're both at some point going to be successful. It might take me a little longer. It might be a little harder, but I can do it if they can do it. Right. And that's when if you can get to a point where you realize you have those thoughts, but then talk yourself out of it, you'll start to have those thoughts less and less, and you'll be able to just pursue things a lot more. And you'll realize, hey, those times that were tough made me tough so that I can handle it. Because that's essentially what they did. Is people would say, oh, that was my thing with Ranger School, was they just torture you to torture you because it's like a frat house. Yeah. But with the scuba diving school, it's, hey, you guys, we need to make, basically torture you, because there's going to be times where currents hit you and your mouthpiece falls out, and you've got to be able to go through the whole process of getting everything hooked up. And so you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's the same with us. You have to get to a point where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. And the only way to get there is to have more experiences of being uncomfortable, more experiences of those terrible agents, terrible loan officers, rude escrow, rude transaction coordinators, underwriters that say no to a file when they should say yes, deals getting delayed, people using you because their agent's out of town and they just want you to open the door for them. You have to get to a point where every negative experience makes you stronger for the next one, because you're like, I've had this happen. This is my reaction. Oh, well, I'm moving on to the next one. And some of that stuff, you start to see it ahead of time, right? You start to know when someone is going to have you open the door for them because their agent's out of town based on how they're interacting. And you just say, no, I can tell something weird's going on, so I'm just not going to do it. And then you move on, right? Too many agents right now, I guarantee you, are saying, oh, you don't want to sign the buyer broker agreement before I show you a house? Okay, well, I'll just show up anyway and make you sign it before I open the door. And then it's going to be, okay, fine, I'll just show you the house. And next thing you know, they disappear on you. And then you find out the house went pending and it was that client, because they already had a buyer broker agreement with a different agent who was out of town. Yeah. Yeah. So this kind of stuff, yeah, Nate just had it. The thing is I'm seeing agents do this. I literally had calls with new agents who are like, because on the loan side, I reach out and they say, I don't know, I'm thinking about leaving the industry. It's just getting ridiculous right now. I'm like, what do you mean? So I just showed a house to someone and they ended up writing an offer with a different agent. I'm like, oh, but you had the buyer broker agreement. You're entitled to the commission. And they said, oh, well, I didn't have them sign it. And I said, why? They said, people just keep saying that they don't want to sign it. I'm like, well, those same people who are saying that are the ones having another agent sign it. So if someone says they don't want to sign it, don't show them the house. It's such a waste of bleeping time. And look what it did to your own mental state. Protect your mental state before you protect your time. But then you got to protect your time, because why would you do that? And so you're going to feel uncomfortable saying no. You're going to feel they're going to be mad at you. That's okay. It'll hurt less and less, because that's unfortunately how life works, is you just get used to the stuff that sucks, but we have to get used to it. You have to control what you think and when you're interacting, right? You have a deal start to go south. You have a deal where someone is overly negotiating and they're ruining the deal, and you're thinking, why is this agent killing this deal? what I feel like they're negotiating just to negotiate, and you're pissing my client off, you're pissing me off. I want you, when you're having that moment of frustration, think, see, this happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. It's okay. I smile and I nod. I tell my client, here's the situation. What's your decision? We make the decision. We either cancel or we move forward. And that's it. And I'll move on. I'll make my $10,000 and I'm going to go find another client and I'm going to make another 10,000. And then I'm going to be working a ton of buyers for the next couple of years. And then I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to all of a sudden work a ton of sellers. And I'm going to be able to kick back like so many agents who suck and have stuck it out long enough in the industry where they're making anywhere from, 400,000 to, I know an agent that she only works listings and she has an assistant work all the buyers, and she consistently makes about 900,000 a year. She takes 2 months off a year where she goes to different countries and her assistant helps, and she pays that person a great salary, and she still makes her 900,000 every single year in our area of Sacramento. I'm not talking about really high priced areas like San Francisco, LA, New York, and all these TV shows, because you can definitely do that there as well. But anytime you have that big goal, it's going to be harder to get there. You just have to be able to keep your mind and keep the checks and balances going with what you think, right? I can't think, oh, I want to make that and it's going to be easy. Most people will say, oh, I don't think that. But your thought pattern shows that you do think that. And that is the biggest thing. I know I'm preaching to the choir for all three of you on the call, but people are watching this recording. And so at some point, and so that's just what you have to realize is your thought pattern reflects what you really think. And so if you want to know what you're thinking subconsciously, you watch your thought pattern. If you're like, I'm not an entitled person, well, is your thought pattern as if you're entitled? Like you believe that someone should be handing you deals. You believe every deal should be easy. You believe every person should be answering the phone the second you call them. That is not always the case. And sometimes it just takes people calling back later. Or sometimes most of the time, deals do not work out great. But look at the time and effort you put into it. Yeah, your beliefs determine your behavior. Perfect. Yeah. What you believe, how you think is your behavior. But most people don't realize that. Most people are just like, I don't think it's going to be easy, really, because the person I interviewed, you've switched 3 different companies now. You are telling me you have nothing negative to comment about them. You haven't closed a mortgage yet, a loan. So I think you think it should be easier. That's what your pattern and your behavior is reflecting, but you are not realizing it. You are your own mountain. You are your biggest problem. It is not the company. And the second you realize that, the second you can move forward and do what everyone else isn't going to do, right? When I was at the scuba diving school, and the last thing I'll share about it is there was one guy. He was a captain, Green Beret. And this guy, I swear, did not know how to swim when he came to the school. And this guy passed. I mean, he passed out, I think, almost too many times where they were going to kick him out and say, because once you pass out a certain amount of times, your body just does that naturally. When it starts to feel like it's out of air, it learns to shut down and make you pass out. So if you pass out, I think it was like more than 3 times, you're out. So he passed out twice. He just was constantly the one like sinking to the bottom. Whenever they're yelling at someone, I could look up and they're yelling at him for something, but he stuck with it. And we were doing operations where we're coming out of the water, all looking all cool and with our rifles up, and he'd take his mouthpiece out and he's like, I lost my fins. And I'm like, damn it, again? Oh, sir, what is going on? But he stuck it out. And it's just like his mental strength. That was the one thing I realized after. I'm like, man, I mean, I could definitely swim way better than he could, but he suffered way more than I did. And the fact that he pushed through was very eye-opening to me. Years later, at the time, I was like, this guy, I just can't even with him. But years later, it's interesting to see that. And I think that's true of anyone else. Someone who says, well, I've got so many cards stacked against me. I'm a single mom with a young kid, living on my own. with a cleaning company and I'm trying to make real estate work. It's like, yeah, but you'll pursue more and you'll endeavor more and go through it, you know. Um, Hopefully this is helpful. It's not always something I like to do, the motivational stuff, but it is something that I've just I've been experiencing as I've been interviewing people too, and the more I watch the news as well, that you have to realize representation means nothing because, and people, if someone watched this recording, they're not going to like hearing that because you're a human being. If you see another human being do something and achieve something, you can do it too. It doesn't mean that your journey, your process is going to look the exact same because you might start off down here and they might start off up here. But there is no reason why you cannot do it. And the second you say, well, there is because they started up here with rich parents or something that handed them everything. Okay, but you're giving all the power to them and you're defeating yourself. You are your own mountain with that thought process. And that thought process is only preventing you. It's only creating reasons why you can't climb the mountain and go and do what they did. So just slap yourself in the face and say, it might be harder. It might take longer. I might suffer way more and have to sacrifice more, but I can do it. So hopefully that's helpful. Like I said, I don't like to do these that often because I don't know. Sometimes I think we should just bear through it. We don't need the motivational stuff, but it's the mindset is huge. We're the start of the last quarter. It's the last time to push through. They say spring in real estate is always booming because school starts to get ready to leave for the summer. The weather improves, so people want to go buy. I think it's because real estate agents and mortgage lenders and all the people who start educating and getting clients excited, they start working in January because they set their New Year's resolutions, they set their goal, and then they don't see you. Typically, you'll put in a lot of work for a couple months and you don't see the results for a couple months. So that's why spring is always booming. So if we're in the last quarter and I'm putting in a lot of work now, right, during the holidays, I'm going to be super busy. And I know January, I'm going to be super busy. And I'm going to set myself up that my goals are going to look very different in January because I've been closing so many deals. I didn't just go the last quarter of closing nothing because it was the holidays. And now I'm like, okay, now that it's January, I'm drawing the line. Nope. January, I'm looking and saying, whoa, I just did an amazing last couple months. My goals now are up here. So hopefully that helps. If anyone needs any questions, don't call me for motivation. I'm just kidding. You can call me for motivation, but